Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I don't know why I'm always drawn to these topics, kind of personal, maybe too much information topics, but I am. Today's video, it's got to do with men's health and recovery and relationships and Matt Gaetz. Okay, let me start at the very beginning here. Like I said, there's going to be some stuff I'm going to talk about that's got to do with personal relationships, recovery, and men's health. And so, just a warning, this video is not for kids, and this video is not for anybody under 18. That being said, okay, just in the news lately, if you've seen what's going on with the Speaker of the House being voted out because of Matt Gaetz. Now, of course, I am a Democrat, liberal, and I am no fan of Matt Gaetz whatsoever, but there's something that came up in the news recently that reminded me of, I've been clean. I'm coming up on 17 years, clean and sober, October 23rd, in about 2 weeks. And something that people around Matt Gaetz are saying that he told them came up in the news. The links will be down below. Apparently, he told people around him, other Republicans, that he, for his relationships, so he could go all night, that he would drink energy drinks and take ED medication. And this is what he told, supposedly, what he told people around him. And that reminded me of some of the stuff that I've gone through in my 17 years of recovery. I've never talked about this. There's going to be some interesting stuff here that I'm going to admit to, some crazy stuff. But there's one thing that I haven't talked about. I talk about being honest on here. I always kind of, I don't know. I'm always going on and on about how I'm totally upfront and 100% honest with you guys. So I'm going to tell you something, and I wasn't 100% honest with the first girl I dated. I dated two women in the 17 years that I've been clean and sober, 2 serious relationships. The first one was for 1 year, and I ended up ending that relationship. And as soon as I ended that relationship, a girl my first girlfriend from like 3rd grade, started talking to me on Facebook, and I started dating her. That was Audrey. And I went out with her, and I was in a relationship with her until she passed away from COVID on August 5th of 2021. I was in a relationship with her for about 6 years. And I'm going to talk about this because, like I said, Matt Gaetz, it reminded me of something that happened to me. Okay, so when I first got clean and sober, October 23rd, 2006, I was not in any relationships. I just worked on myself. I started getting, I got clean, I exercised, I started working out, I started painting. I had never painted before. I had done work like in drafting, architectural drafting, but I had never done like artwork, painting. So I started developing all this stuff, kind of learning some new stuff about myself and developing my confidence. I fixed all my teeth. I told you guys how literally every tooth I had was broken off of the gum line. Every single one. I don't have any pictures of this, but every tooth was broken off. So I spent the first 7 years of my recovery, from 2006 to about 2014, just working on myself, no relationships. Then I got in a relationship with a woman that I knew from when I was a teenager. I dated her sister, and we started talking. I'll just say her name. I don't want to say her name here. I'm going to find out if she's watching my channel. That's for sure. And I wasn't completely honest with her, and this is something I'm going to own up to right now. I've told my counselor back when I was going to the clinic. I told my counselor about this. Okay, so I was insecure. I had never been in a relationship where, even going back to when I was 14 or 15, I would go and have people buy liquor for me at the package store. I'd never been in a relationship, a sober relationship, in my entire life, and I was terrified of it. I didn't know how it would work. And then there was the whole thing with recovery. I was insecure about how things would function, so I started going to a doctor. That's one of the things. I got myself a regular doctor in those first years of recovery, and I ended up asking the doctor for a sample of the ED medication. And I still have the sample here. There's still 2 left in there. The expiration date is on here too. Let's see, where's the expiration date? I don't know if you guys can see it there. I think it's from 2015, I think. Yeah, so this is the first one. This is the actual sample the doctor gave me. Okay. And let me tell you this, there's nothing shameful about using these. It's not just for in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, I have no medical experience, no medical training. But in my opinion, it's not just for people with like ED. I felt like an adult film star when I used this stuff. It was amazing. But here's the thing, the first girl I started dating, the subject came up. We first started dating. I hadn't been in a relationship. I had never been in a sober relationship. And I hadn't been in any relationships for the first 7 years of my recovery. So I was a little insecure. And I broached the subject with the first girl I started dating. And she had an insecure attitude about this stuff. She was about 46 years old, and I was about 48 years old. And she took it as a personal insult. These medications, like she would say, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough of I'm not sexy enough to entice you, that you would need that stuff. So whenever I first broached the subject, she was insulted, so I never brought it up again. And I had already gotten a sample. I think I had already used it at that point too, and I hadn't told her. I still remember this. This is very personal, but it had an effect on me, and it caused me to keep using this medication. She was looking up at me, and she was gripping me. She had a hold on me, and she said, "This is mine." If you know what I'm saying. She was, like I said, these things work amazingly good. At 46, 48 years old, things are still working great, but I'm not 17 anymore. And it's just, I couldn't say enough about this medication, really. It's incredible to me. Like I said, I felt like a film star, adult film star, when I used this stuff. And other people have said that too, like Matt Gaetz. And I still remember her looking up at me, holding on to me and saying, "This is mine. Nobody else will ever have this." So I kept using it, and she never knew that I was using it. And this caused problems because I couldn't admit it to her at this point that I had been using it. And I didn't know, and she had a rather high drive. I've told you guys about this before. We're talking 10, 12, 15 times a week at 48 years old. I don't know if I can keep up with that. So I would always take one or two of these, or 2 or 3 of these $30, I would get the generic ones, these $30 tablets, and I would bring them in my wallet. And I'd have to, I'd start to sense when the moment was going to happen. And I'd excuse myself, go to the bathroom, take one. And I did this for a year, and she did not know. And that's not the right way to go about it, because I painted myself into a corner. Like I said, these were expensive, and I got to a point where I couldn't admit to her that I was taking these. She would have freaked out. She was inadequate enough. Plus, I had been dishonest up to this point, and I couldn't stop taking them because I couldn't keep up. I had my doubts that I could keep up at the high intensity level that this woman was functioning at. And I never told her this, but this is one of the main reasons that I had to break up with her, because it was just costing too much money. I was talking like $300 a week in ED medication. And after about 1 year, I just couldn't do it anymore. It became too much, the whole burden of being dishonest. And this is why I'm talking about this, because I should have never been dishonest. I painted myself into a corner, and I think that's true with all times. Whenever you're untruthful about anything, it catches up with you. It does. You can't perpetrate something dishonest about yourself for any length of time, even not including this, but anything. And that's one of the things I learned. That changed me in my second relationship with Audrey. Now, Audrey was much more confident in herself, and she had a good job working at a recovery center. She was in recovery herself, mainly for alcohol, and she worked in one of the high-end recovery places here in Connecticut where famous and wealthy people would go to recover. I'm not going to name the place now, but it was in the northwest corner of Connecticut, and she had a great job. She was head of recruiting. She was the head person that employed people at this recovery center, so she had a fantastic job, and she had fantastic insurance. And she was all for this stuff because her insurance would cover it. So she's like, why not? Go to the doctor, get a prescription. Because with Audrey, I never used this stuff. At that point, I wasn't going to make the same mistake again, and I was functioning like I should, and there was no reason. But me and Audrey talked, and I told her how this medication boosted, insanely boosted size and performance, like an incredible amount. And she was curious. So, like I said, I was functioning normal for a 40-year-old man, interacting 5 to 7 times a week, but I wasn't using this. So she was all for it. But everything that happened with her, we got into a thing about marriage, and she ended up moving out. We were still dating. She moved to Florida, and she passed away from COVID. And that's that. So we never got the opportunity to kind of experience this medication together, which is what we both agreed on. This is my point, though, in recovery. Be secure in yourself. I was insecure when I first got into recovery because the biggest thing, it scared me. It scared me being in a relationship without being under the using alcohol or drugs. I was scared to be in a relationship. And so I went and got I relied on this, and that was a mistake. And the second mistake was not being honest about the person that I was dating. I painted myself into a corner where I could no longer keep up the medication. I had to keep up the dishonesty, and something had to give. And it was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. And if you're watching this, Paula, I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. It's one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. So yeah, this stuff works amazing. Even if you are functioning perfectly fine, I would highly recommend it. Even just for a little boost on a Saturday night date, I think it's amazing. All right, so that's the video for today. I'll be back later with another video. I hope you guys took something away from it. Have a good Friday.